Hello friends, in this video we're going to talk about how to change a bandsaw drive belt. This is a Craftsman 10-inch bandsaw that I've had for 10 or 15 years, used off and on. So in a recent project I worked this bandsaw pretty hard and I ended up with the drive belt that looks like this. I didn't even realize it was wearing down or worn down, but it basically disintegrated at some point. I bought a replacement belt on Amazon. Couldn't find that at any of the retail places. I think in the old days you could have gotten one from your Sears dealer, but Sears is no more. So it seemed like a fairly straightforward process. Here we've got the top hatch that's available for when you want to change the overall bandsaw blade. Down here we have the motor drum as well as the kind of driver wheel for the bandsaw. You see I've still got a few scraps in there. Clean that out. So it's pretty obvious that we aren't going to get the belt over this wheel, so the wheel has to come off. One element of that is removing the tension of the saw blade itself. But it turns out the more important thing is to take off this retainer ring, which I've since learned is called a snap ring. And before I show you how to do that, which I've never done before myself, I'm going to show you how not to do that. So I was hoping I could just do this with available tools, and about the best thing that I have was this pair of needle nose pliers that I figured I could kind of spread the ring with, but I've tried that lots of times and basically didn't have any luck. Tried some other pliers and even kind of poking it with nails. That didn't work either. In the spirit of this channel, I thought about possibly building something but didn't want to spend the time and effort. So I have since discovered that we have a thing called snap ring pliers. I got this at Harbor Freight for about $5, and we're going to try that out on the snap ring here. So I've just taken this snap ring tool out of the box. It comes with one head and attached, and then 3 more that are loose you can attach. It looks like it has a fairly simple hand nut that could be used to interchange those. So the one that's on there, just at a glance, looks like it might be okay for my need. So let's try it out. Well, that was actually quite easy with the right tool. As with so many things. Now I'm going to loosen this tensioner on the top. It'll let me get the belt off. I had that set kind of tight to keep the bottom wheel from revolving around too much. So this string that I was unable to pull off was all wrapped around here. See another snap ring back there, but I don't think we need to deal with that. While we're here, let's do a kind of a nominal fitting on the belt, except that goes on here. I've got this turned around. We've got matching threads, looks like 4 grooves basically to go with the 4 ridges on the belt. Now it turns out that this is a pretty popular model, and you can actually look up the model number on Amazon and get exactly the right belt. There were different third-party belts available, but I kind of went through a process of trying to figure out what I thought was the best one. Sometimes they came in 2 packs, but I don't really need 2 because I'll lose the second one in 15 years when I need it. So I'm going to do some cleaning on this while we're here to get all the accumulated dust and chips and miscellaneous out of it. And which is probably also a good thing to do every 15 years. And then we'll work on putting the belt back in. So I've got not clear which side to do first, but I'm going to put the grooves on this wheel on this side. Fit them on the other side kind of loosely. And then try to get this wheel on here. Actually, let's do it the other way around. We'll get the wheel all the way on. And then, kind of like changing a bike tire, you can actually sort of roll it onto there, I think. So the belt is just a little bit too, the belt is pretty snug, which is what you would expect. It needs to be able to operate with a lot of force on the wheel. Okay. I see that there's an Allen screw here that I hadn't noticed, so maybe rather than trying to tension this on, I'll take that off, put it on in place, and then kind of slide the whole thing on as one unit. So I've tried a lot of different things to get this on between shots, and finally came up with something that worked. I had to take this motor pulley all the way off, get these lined up just barely on the end, got this just barely aligned on the end of this rod, and then I found a wrench. The handle happened to fit this hole pretty well, and basically I just very gently pried it sideways in order to get it to kind of stick to the shaft here. And now I'm kind of doing a back and forth thing with a hammer and a scrap board that I had, kind of a little at a time on each one until they get to where they're ultimately supposed to be. I also found out I had to be careful to line this one up with the slot that holds the Allen screw. So I had to take that apart and kind of redo the process once, because it didn't seem feasible. The tension is so tight on this, it really isn't feasible to move this pulley independent of the shaft if they're not aligned correctly to begin with. just realized a basic mistake, which is you have to be off center here or else you'll just hit this shaft. So that's kind of one of those things you learn along the line. So that's moving fairly well. It's got a ways to go. So we'll just keep pounding. I think this one's all the way on now, so I'm going to just pound the other one. Oh, that goes on very nicely now. I'm going to do one more check to make sure that my Allen screw is still aligned with the flat. Can't even see the flat, so I guess I'll just call it good. So neither one of these are moving now with more pounding, so I'm going to say they're aligned. Ready to put this Allen screw back in at this point, which is kind of tricky. I won't bore you with that, but just show you the final result. Last but not least, let's put the snap ring back on. Use the same tool, just spread it out a little bit. Okay. That's spinning freely, which is what it should do. Give it another little hand twist here. Everything's looking good. So I'm ready to close the covers and try it out. I just learned something else. I didn't have the bandsaw blade tight enough, which was causing it to rub against this idler wheel. So once I got that fully tightened, it doesn't hit the idler wheel anymore. Close the covers and try it out. I'll just use the same little scrap that I used to pound it in with as kind of a honor to its memory. It's making kind of a humming sound that isn't what I'm used to. Let's see if that's in the top. Try the bottom. Appears to be coming from the bottom. Maybe the belt isn't worn in yet, but everything is still looks okay to me. Oh, I see one detail I didn't get this little brush down. That might help a little bit. Let's try that. Looks like the blade's kind of going back and forth here, so maybe it isn't on quite perfectly. I've loosened the blade and run it around a few times. I'm going to retighten it. That sounds better. You wouldn't normally run this with the covers open, but I was being careful and keeping things out of the way while I checked it out. That's a little safety thing. Sounds very normal. Let's Try again with our other scrap of wood. Okay. Well, that sounds just like it used to before the belt broke, so I think we're going to call that a success. As always, it's been a learning process for me and hopefully for you too. You can learn from my mistakes. So thanks for watching and bye-bye.